Hello everybody on the Cross TV, America for Jesus, hallelujah. Thank God for everybody here as this is very special show today. You're gonna know what's going on when you meet my guest speaker, but first of all, this guest speaker, I know him through amazing woman of God. She is having a very good ministry to make America great again and to make America golden again. And I attend a lot of her meetings, and when she bringing all the American citizen people and the American people who love America, and they are putting the flag over everywhere. We march with the cars. I need to welcome today the woman of God, Bonnie. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Thank you.
And today I need you to introduce to me somebody like he really have a story.
Yes.
And today it's an honor to have his story on the Cross TV.
Yes, it is.
And to make everybody pray for him, become behind him, spread this. I like you to share as much as you can this episode today. So would you introduce your guest today?
Sure. I got a call from a friend, and a J6er who was at the Capitol on January 6th needed a ride to Lompoc Jail on Friday, which is tomorrow. And I said I'd be happy to do it because I want to support our fellow Americans. And when I got a call to come in here today, I thought, oh my goodness, if Hank Muntzer is available, he should come and talk to you. So fortunately, he was available. We got him up here with the Uber, and he's here today. He's going to share his incredible story. He is turning himself in tomorrow to serve 2 years for supporting America and debunking the 2020 election, because we all know that was stolen. And we had millions of Americans go to the Capitol to support President Trump. They were entrapped by the FBI and the CIA and all the cabal, and now they're paying the price for it. We need to stand behind them as Americans, talk about the truth, and get these people out. So
that's Hank.
Hank. Hank as in think.
I am Egyptian, so I can say hunk.
Whatever.
Egyptian people can say anything like.
He's a hunk too. Hank the hunk.
Okay, Hank. I never seen somebody turning himself tomorrow and laughing like you.
Oh, I love it. It's the greatest time to be alive.
It's a brave heart. Those are the stories that I like to interview all the time here. So please tell us who you are and what's going on and what happened in 6th of January, and tell us your story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible.
Thank you.
Because there's so much information to go over. But the bottom line is, I know that Trump is the Lord's anointed. God told me that. This was before Trump was even elected. And so then I went down the rabbit hole. Most people know
2016.
About all the deception and stuff going on. I did a lot of work with the defense and helped a lot of defense contractors and stuff like that, but I knew a lot of the corruption that existed. I didn't know the level or the scope of it. And as I started to understand all that, I painted my building, I painted my moving truck. I do Trump trains after the election was stolen. But anyhow, because of all this, I felt calling to go to Washington, D.C. And when I went to Washington, D.C., I put an ad in the paper, and the ad that I put in the paper was to pay for anyone who wanted to go to D.C. Because I know a lot of people wanted to go, but they're working. It was kind of short notice, and the people that could go probably didn't have the money.
Okay.
So we were able to get 9 people to go to D.C.
Really? Okay.
And then then they called me the ringleader that got 2 million people there. That'd be an honor if I got 2 million people there, but I only got 9. Okay. I can leave that only up to Trump. But I even said in my Facebook page, I said I felt like I was David versus Goliath. Matter of fact, they used that against me in my court case as if I was going to do something.
They're using the verse in the Bible against
Correct.
you?
Yeah. So, because I said that. I said, I felt like David versus Goliath. And I said, it's one thing, so if 1 bee shows up, but if 1 million bees show up, even the bravest run. And they used that in my court proceeding to say that I had intent to do something that day, which I didn't. Basically what happened is I went there to see speakers that were going to be there and to support Trump. At that point, when we booked the tickets up, we didn't even know Trump was going to speak that day, and then we found out later he was. It was very exciting. So we get there to Washington, D.C., I flew in the plane, and we were getting off the plane, and there was all Trump supporters but one person, it was Black Lives Matter. He jumped up and threatened our lives to kill all of us,
Oh,
and
really?
somebody pressed charges against him. And so anyhow, the bottom line is we get to D.C., we got our scooters and we kind of buzzed around the city the day after the event happened on January 6th. And I can go into that because they locked down the whole area after we were there. So anyhow, so we get up early in the morning. I think we were there like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. It was real early, and there was a crowd of people going to the Ellipse. Because we didn't know where we were. I didn't know where we were. We did have a guy on the ground there. He got there like 3 or 4 days earlier, so he kind of knew the layout of the area. I didn't know any of the area. I didn't know where the Capitol was. I haven't been to the Capitol. I probably did when I was a very young kid, 5 or 6 or something. I think I'd been there at that point, but I don't even remember. So I didn't even know where anything was. So I arrived there to hear Trump speak, and then Trump asked us to, after he was done speaking, to go to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically, which is what we did. So we headed to the Capitol building, and then they used one of these things against me in court that I intended to do something.
Like what?
Like we were going to take over the Capitol or something. So anyhow, there was a little blurb that came through on someone's phone that said there was people at the Capitol, and they're breaking through fences or some weird thing like that. And somebody was talking on the phone. And me, with my humor, I said, well, it's our house. We just move in and spend the night. You know how you normally do with humor. And so they tried to...
That's joking. Like
right. So they tried to use that against me as if we were going to do something, you know. So they got to make... What the Justice Department tends to do, and I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on, if you agree with government, you get a pass no matter what. If you don't agree with government, they use it to browbeat you.
Yes.
So what they had to prove in the court of law, which prove, but it's on assumptions and presumptions and lies at best, was that I had intent to do something. Which I have no intent, you know. So I went to the Capitol. When we get there, the whole Capitol grounds was surrounded. I couldn't see the grass. I couldn't see anything but the inaugural stage up there. And the only reason I know there's grass, because I went back there for my sentencing and stuff, and to D.C. for trial, and it didn't even look like the same place, because when I saw it was a crowd of people, it didn't even look the same. I didn't know there was little ledges there, anything. I couldn't even see the lay of the land, because there were so many people. And there was probably close to 2 million people there that day. It was it was like a sea of people. And the thing is, if we wanted to create a problem or do something, there was enough of us there that day. We could have took down the entire Capitol building and walked off with it. We could have took the whole place down. So to make them think that we were there to do something is just an arbitrary belief that they have to create a narrative.
They start the lie in the media and those CNN things and
Correct.
stuff.
To condemn us of something we didn't actually do. Now, remember we went through that time with the Black Lives Matter. It was called the Summer of Love. They burned down people's businesses. They destroyed things. None of them were held accountable. Not one.
Not even
and we
one.
didn't do any of that. Nothing was broken, nothing was destroyed. I didn't know there was anything broken or there was any violence until after I got back to my apartment, or we had a home that we actually had all the state in. And so we get back there, and it looks like the Capitol's on fire, the place is burning down. We're like, what just happened? I was just there. And so we go back the next day, because we had a curfew. We couldn't fly out that night on the plane, so I stayed. So I took pictures the next day, and you'll have the pictures for that. And us around the Capitol, and we ran into the National Guard, and we asked, who died, what happened, because the whole thing was surreal to me, because I didn't see any of that.
This is the next day, or this is the first day?
That is the next day.
Okay.
I mean, does it look like a crime scene to you?
No. Everything is on order, like a barbecue and stuff.
Yeah, I'm just walking around, and we're like, what happened? Because I thought all these people died. Well, the true story is, not what the media portrayed, not one officer died that day. Not one.
Why they say that? Why they say the officers and injured officers and stuff like this? Why they keep saying those lies at that day?
I have no idea, but look at the media. They're not telling the truth. It's all about a narrative.
So it was peacefully and just...
It was peacefully,
And what happened second day?
So the next day that's what you see. Right there was the next day. We walked around there trying to figure out what's going on, because we're not allowed to go out at night. So we went out there the next day, and there's reporters, there's people running back and forth.
TV.
It looks just like a normal day. And I'm asking them, I said, who died that day? What was this all about? We saw it on TV. It looked like bombs went off. It looked like there was a fire at the Capitol. The way the media portrayed it, that's the image I had in my mind. None of that happened. But 3 January 6ers died. So the problem is they flipped the narrative. The police caused the problem. Now, were the police totally at fault? I don't believe the police were totally at fault. I believe there was provocateurs in there. Now we're finding out that there's federal agents involved. As many as 1,000, maybe 2,000 federal agents that created this problem to begin with, including the pipe bombs. I believe when the full information comes out, that was set up by our FBI. So they had to create this narrative to blame it on us for creating an insurrection, which nobody was ever charged with. Nobody was charged with insurrection. But they get us for charges like entering a manually restricted building, picketing, all kinds of things like that, which are actually protected under the Constitution. But when Congress passes laws, they use that law to browbeat us. But if you look in Black's Law Dictionary, any law that's created that violates the Constitution is null and void. So we're dealing with a system, just like we did with Great Britain, we broke away. Laws for thee, but not for me. And I always tell people, if you look at the way our legal system, or the bar, I believe the bar is nothing more than the British Accreditation Registry. We're back under the same kind of rule. You know, it's laws that they make up, laws they interpret. So now, in my case, I had several felony convictions.
So what the press charges on you? Several felonies?
Several felons. One of the felony charges was interrupting Congress. So people need to understand what that's all about, because that's hugely important. Because this is how our 3-letter agencies, FBI, CIA, all the rest of them, including the Environmental Protection Agency, all those use these laws to browbeat people. So let me give you an example. You know, we know in the Bible it says, thou shalt not do certain things. Like, for instance, we have a stop sign. The stop sign's there in case you run a stop sign, and you create a damage. Then there's a damage party under the Constitution. Then we know who the damage party is, who needs to make restitution. But now, because we have these laws, the police can pull you over and give you a ticket because you ran the stoplight. It was never intended for that purpose. It was intended to have a set of metrics by which to judge when someone did something wrong, who the casualty or who is at fault. Okay, because of our legal system right now, they set these laws up, and they got to prove that you willfully and knowingly did these things. And
even if no accident happened, you still have the ticket.
Well,
before was like
before they had to prove that you had intent and you were creating an intentional crime. Assuming and presuming you committed this crime and you had intent, when that's not how the law should read or should be used.
Okay, so the first felony is?
So one of the first felonies is 1512, and it's important to understand what the 1512 was. 1512 was used in order to prevent companies like Enron, who basically, remember, they did these illegal things, and they interfered with Congress's investigation with paperwork. Okay, because they were using that as paperwork, what they ended up doing to us is saying that we interrupted Congress, so therefore we're guilty. But the way the law was written, and this is hugely important because we're going to go back to a second ruling that came out at the same time by the Supreme Court. So they basically ruled that you can't use that for that reason. It was passed by Congress as paperwork. If these people interrupted Congress using paperwork to hinder their investigation, then you can use it. So the Supreme Court said you couldn't use 1512. They told them they can only use it in the way it was written. And then they did a thing called the Chevron case. The Chevron case is what they use against fishermen and everybody else to keep them from doing certain things by the Environmental Protection Agency. The Environmental Protection Agency doesn't have the right to interpret law. So the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron case and said if it was written by Congress in this fashion, and this is how it's to be used, then you can prosecute them based upon how it was written by Congress, not based upon interpretation. So when they got rid of the 1512, the Chevron case came out, and so now they're still charging people with things that they didn't do. So basically they gave the Department of Justice a warning not to continue doing this, but yet they've continued doing this to J6ers, and this is going to backfire. So right now, all January 6ers have come together in some filings, which is, legal proceedings as a class action lawsuit. And these class action lawsuits are the biggest in history. One is for $50 billion, and another one for $100 billion for wrongful conviction. And where this is eventually going is Trump is going to pardon us, and I believe he's probably going to give us an innocent man's pardon.
So number 2 felony? Felony number 2? How
So
many felonies?
there's 2 felonies, and I think the other has to do with like entry, remaining in restricted building or something of that nature.
Prohibited things and stuff.
Right, and
so any more
and
felonies?
the rest of them were like picketing and things of that nature, and kind of trespassing charges. Those were all part of.
How many of them?
There was 5 or 6 of them. I can't remember because they added one
And
to my case.
you have a lawyer already?
Yeah, I've had 3 lawyers. The first one dropped out, probably piles of information. I think he was overwhelmed. The second attorney tried to get me in a stipulated bench trial, which I'm never going to plead guilty to anything. And he basically made a deal with the prosecutor, basically wanting me to admit guilt and do all this stuff. And I'm like, why would I do that?
Okay, and
so
how much, what did the deal was? Like how many years give you in this deal?
So originally, the 1512 could have got you 20 years.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Right. So if they stacked them all up, some of these people could have got. Some of us could have got 30 or 40 years. Now that's not how they ruled, but you could have if they give the highest sentence. But usually it's less.
So thank God you reject this one because you're not guilty.
Well, it would have been if the Supreme Court didn't rule accordingly. They would have convicted me. In fact, the findings by my prosecutor, Judge Cobb, basically quoted the 1512 that I had intent to interrupt things. Which, how could I interrupt things when the conviction for the 1512 has been thrown out? But that was in her minutes.
How many of you?
I think there's close to 1,600 people.
1,600?
Correct.
1,600?
Yes. One of them.
And you are from California here, and you was
No. I'm from Dillon, Montana.
Montana, okay.
Right, and I had to fly in here because I have to turn myself into Lompoc. That's by 2 o'clock tomorrow, which is Friday.
Guys, can you imagine this man is going tomorrow to turn himself in, and can you imagine he went there very peacefully, just saying, I don't like to see America this way, and it ends up all those felonies. So I'm raising the red flag right now to everybody that's watching right now to share and just support this man to see exactly, to be behind him. Because once he be inside 2 o'clock, our hope, our prayer is that Trump will look at this and he will pardon them. 1,600 from a lot of states, right? Not
from all over, and they're still going after more people. I mean,
they still.
They just arrested a few more people here the other day, but it's just. These are the kind of things going on. One of the guys I was with, I stayed with, his name is Tommy Tatum. He's the Tommy Tatum News, which is really good. Matter of fact, he actually put out a video because when my last attorney, which I nailed him to the crossroads because I asked him why he was going to do the things he did, because basically he's in a situation where he could be in malpractice because he went against the will of what I wanted. So I asked him why he did that. So he dumped all my files. Now, what the prosecution and what the government has done is basically we're allowed to see the videos of what happened at the Capitol that day with our attorney. We're not allowed to publish it or put it out there.
Oh.
So they're keeping everything secret. So when that file was released, everybody had it because my last attorney dumped it all.
So the file is already released.
So Tommy Tatum put out a video of them hitting me over the head. So there was one occurrence where I was assaulted by an officer. I wanted to find that information. In the process of my discovery, I found out, because they put it in the notes, that I was trying to grab a baton from an officer. I'm like, where did that come from? I didn't know what that was about. So I come to find out that baton that they were talking about was a guy that struck me over the head. And I didn't know it was an officer at the time because there was a flag in front of my face and somebody swung, and I put my hands up afterwards because I didn't know where that came from. Come to find out later, an officer clubbed me over the head. But that wasn't even, they didn't even consider that in the trial, even though we pointed that out. We actually put an officer on the stand who was talking, he was just making his standard dialogue like they normally do about January 6ers. And we asked him in cross-examination, I said, is there any time that an officer should ever use a baton and swing anything above the waist? He said, never. Yet we showed the video of me being struck over the head. So none of these officers have ever been held accountable.
Well, Hank, you mentioned to me that they asked you to come into the building, right? And then what they did is they closed the doors, and they told everybody to leave.
Yeah, so...
How they will leave?
Exactly. So that's why it looks so chaotic in there, because they closed the doors, but they told, get out, get out, get out, and nobody could get out.
Well, it's even worse than that. It'd be like me inviting you over to my house.
Okay.
And I let you into the house, and then I club you and assault you, and then I tell the police that you broke and entered.
So the
That's
doors,
exactly
the doors
what happened that
was
day.
open, and you
They
feel
opened
like
the
it's
doors,
okay,
they
it's
waved us
peaceful.
in. Not one person told me to leave. I was next to guards all over. No
Very
one
much
said
like
a thing.
setup.
Total
It
setup.
was a setup. That was a
Total
trap.
setup. Entrapment.
Some people use the word entrapment. Entrapment kind of means that you're guilty of something, but the government trapped you. A trap means you had no idea. You had no intention to do anything wrong. You had no idea you were committing a crime. You see what I'm saying? And you were set up. That's
Nobody
what a trap
have
is.
any weapons inside in their hands. Just
Not that I know of. They've spun that narrative that somebody fired a gunshot on one of the railings, but he could be a Fed for all
but
we
you
know.
yourself, you don't have any weapons.
No, you're not even have weapons in D.C.
I know. That
So, I mean,
he's scanning you.
I build weapons is one of the things I do. I build weapons. I built all kinds of high performance systems, you know, Shy-Tex and everything else. So I know weapon systems. I can shoot 3 and
Okay.
4 miles, no problem.
Okay.
And I'm very familiar with weapon systems. But no, none of that was going on. None of us were there for those kind of situations. But to try to someone to use a narrative like that, because I know guns and I know what happens, I mean, nobody's going to do that. I mean, if we wanted to take over the Capitol, I could single-handedly
I
remove
understand.
it.
2 million
I
people
could
are-
remove the whole building from the face of the earth. Because of what I used to
Okay.
do with weapon systems and explosives, I could
Okay.
devastate the whole building. But
Okay,
we're not
okay.
there for that reason. You understand?
I understand.
It's huge.
So now I need you to, because we just have 2-3 minutes and we have to finish the episode. So what you like the people who watching the Cross TV to do right now? How we can help? How we can spread the word? How we can make
You know,
this story?
Jake Lang has a fundraiser that he helps a lot of people with in
Okay.
January. So he's been helping me. He's the only one from the January 6th movement that's actually gave any consideration or help.
Okay. What
There's a
kind
lot of
help?
others.
Like,
Well, he makes sure that
financial.
there's money on your books when you're in there. He helps with lawyers, stuff like that. I didn't ask for any of those help, but he gave me a place to stay, and then obviously paid for my plane tickets, which is huge. I'm just considered lucky to get anything.
Okay.
You know, I don't look for help. I'm not one to ask for
understand.
help. That's just who I am. Obviously, I have bills that usually help other January 6ers rather than the other way around. But
Okay.
now that I'm going to jail, you know, I'm not really worried because I know I have my pardon before that happens. But obviously, if I'm in there for a very long period of time,
you need
I
a
won't
lot.
be able to pay my bills. I won't be able to pay the mortgage on my business, everything else. There's things that will just crumble. And I
Okay.
don't care. I'm willing to sacrifice it all.
Thank you
So
very much.
every man, woman, child in America can have freedom. Whether you agree with me or not, it's about freedom. And we should have,
And the freedom
right.
is not cheap. It's not free.
Well, freedom is not free unless you have the will to fight for it.
yes.
And our founding fathers made it very clear. Those who sacrifice freedom for temporary security deserve neither. So we need to stand for freedom.
Okay.
Whether I agree with you or not on principle, if it's our constitutional duty to have the right to speak up, whether
Yes.
you agree with it or not, we need to stand together in those issues, because if we don't, none of us have freedom. Just because it works towards your cause is how our enemy enslaves us. So we need to make sure everyone's rights and freedoms are protected equally.
Have 13, 14, and 15. We're praying for the White House and for Trump. Here is the occasion. And I promise you, Hank, that we're going to put your videos all the time. I know at that time you're
Thank
going to be
you.
inside, but enjoy inside until freedom. It's
I
okay.
mean, it's a badge of honor. And, I'm hoping, I'm going to wear this and I'm going to have
yes,
some
you're going to go like
pants
this.
and a shirt with stripes on it, because I'm going to mock this whole thing.
Mm.
And too, I'm looking to maybe get some fake tattoos, 2 Punisher symbols on my cheek, and on the front of my forehead, I'm going to write government accountability, and I'm going to show up in the and at jail with that on me, just to mock the whole situation, because this has got to end. This shouldn't happen to anyone.
That's going to be ending.
And I consider it a joy to be in the position I am to represent every American
Thank you very
for
much.
our freedoms.
Thank you very much for standing for America. Thank you, Bonnie. And I really honor to interview you before and after. Promise me you're going to come back here when you get the
I
pardon.
would love that.
Okay, guys, see you later. And we welcome everybody supporting this man and supporting the cause of Make America Great Again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.